70 pas tout.
Anyways, yeah, well, beers, this next topic came up because, beers were involved in our 4th of July special episode. And it kind of, brought up a conversation between me and Rob about beers and the kinds of beers that we like and, kind of what our histories were. And so, yeah, I guess we decided that we were going to expand on that conversation tonight and just talk about beers.
Always a good thing to talk about.
Right? I like beers. I drink beers. Probably
Beer's
still, yeah, still gonna drink beers.
Yeah, exactly. So our conversation went, and I'll re-ask this of you, Andy. It's like, what did it take you a while to like kind of get used to beer initially? Like, because I know like a lot of people. I know for me specifically, it wasn't something that I enjoyed right away.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a period where, I had to acquire the taste for beer because, it wasn't something that I really, um, familiar with or brought up around. 'Cause my dad wasn't a drinker. I mean, my uncles were, and there was a time where, all of my dad's brothers, my uncles, we all lived in one house together, and and there were a few drinkers among them, and I'm told that one day one of my uncles had left the beer out, and I actually took a sip as a baby. So I guess that would have been my first exposure to beer. But and I'm no worse for it. Yeah, but yeah, it took me a little bit to get used to the taste of beer, and what was it? I think oh yeah, and I told you that like I almost went in reverse order because what is it? Usually people when they're introduced to beer, they go with, like the lights, but and I mean I started off with one light, which was a Corona, and then and then I went completely left field and just started drinking dark ales.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually because I didn't start drinking until like much later in life. I was probably like maybe 25, 26 when I did, and I actually I didn't start with beer. I was a whiskey guy. I tried whiskey first, and I liked that a lot. And then I was like, well, because beers, I was like, hey, I didn't really initially care for the taste, and maybe because it was just something that I was like, I don't know I don't even remember what that beer was that I first tasted, but I didn't really care for it. But then, like, I kind of, I think probably the first one I started with was Shock Top, which is it's a Belgian wheat, and I really like that one a lot because it kind of has like a nice orange zest to it, and
right.
I was like, oh, this tastes pretty good, and and then once it was like, okay, well, I guess beer is pretty good, and you kind of go down that route, and as you start to like, oh, I like this, let me see what else like I might like, and your flavor palette changes, and I don't know, it's just I still don't like stouts like Guinness or like beers like that. But I've been probably like my favorite, like one of my go-tos is obviously like Rolling Rock. I drink that a lot. But I've been trying this year. I've been challenging one of my, I don't know if you call it a New Year's resolution per se, but like one of the challenges I gave myself is I wanted to try out different beers and kind of go beyond what like I normally do, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh well, let's see, I'm gonna explore, try something different, and then lo and behold, I just buy another 12-pack of Rolling Rock again, and
It's a slow process. It's a slow process.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I've been trying out different beers. Like I've been kind of challenging myself, getting different types, ones that like some of the craft brews and stuff like that, seeing if I like those. Um, some have been a miss, and I was like, oh, I'll never get that again. Or then there's been other ones who's like, oh wow, I'm really glad that I tried that. It's pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You confessed to me like the reason why you don't like stouts is because the coffee flavor, and you're not a fan of coffee.
Yes, that's the main reason why. Because I know, like, because the first thing I taste in Guinness when I drink that, I can taste the coffee right away. Like that flavor overpowers everything else in that beer. And so it's like, oh, and I think it's one of the most disgusting flavors on the planet. So I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I understand. Knowing. But that's just me. I know
Right.
why so many people like it, because I do like that coffee flavor. It's kind of like, do you ever watch the show, the Drew Carey show?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Buzz
Yeah.
Beer. That
Buzz
was
beer.
essentially,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
he was
yeah.
pretty much making coffee beer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much like, well, I think like some of the people who watch that show probably made beers based off of Buzz Beer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing that I tend not to like stouts, or I don't always like I won't drink a ton of dark ales, is because when I drink beer, I want to be like refreshed. I kind of see it as something like a side thing that I drink, and it's like it's a hot day outside, or I've had a rough day, and so I want something that's like light and refreshing and flavorful.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I drink beers like that, I feel like I'm having a meal, and I'm like, oh God, I'm so full. Like, why? It's like you don't want to eat anything afterwards. It's just like, it's too the. I feel like I drank a meal essentially.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I told you that I liked it because because one, I particularly enjoy coffee. But I liken stouts like Guinness to adult chocolate milk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why I enjoy the dark ales or stouts.
Now, one of the few that's like a dark one that I like, that I drink fairly consistently, is the It's Not Your Father's Root Beer.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, because it really does taste like root beer, like a really good root beer.
Mm-hmm.
And also that's not a flavor profile that everyone likes. But yeah, I had to be careful with those, because it's like, oh man, this is really good and refreshing, and then like 2.5 in, I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of, you have to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, I've been trying out some different stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, like I still go to like my go-to ones. Like I like Rolling Rock. I really like Bush Beer. It's pretty good. Yeah, and I'm showing you some of the cheap beers. Like Miller High Life is pretty good. But yeah, I've been exploring some of the craft beers this year. Like we tried when Eric was on the podcast, we tried out that one beer that was in that like bottle
Yeah,
that
the
I
Allagash.
put out for us. Yeah, the Allagash Tripel. That, and we all like that. That's a oof, man.
Yeah, that
That
was a good
punch.
one.
That
Yeah.
just a nice punch.
Yeah. Even though I took that hard left into stouts, I mean now I kind of went back towards the lighter beers, and right now my go-to is a Belgian wheat beers. So
Not
like
a bad
your
way to go.
Hefts, your Hogardens, Allagash. So yeah, those variety of beers.
I've actually, I mean, that's still kind of like I like those type of beers still.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been going more and like testing out the IPA waters
Mm-hmm.
more recently,
Yeah,
and I'm actually starting to like them.
right. What is it?
The
Because
key though,
when I first had IPAs, yeah, I wasn't a big fan because I'm not a really big bitter person. And for those
oh
of
yeah, it
you,
was awful the first time I tried it.
anyone who knows about IPAs, they're super hoppy and which makes them like very bitter. Um, but just a couple of weeks ago, I had a pretty good one, a local one from El Segundo, maybe Lagunitas
Lagunitas,
IPA,
yeah.
and it's funny because I remember having it before, but for some reason this time it wasn't as bitingly bitter as I remembered. And what was it? I think was it you who said that, or I don't know who said it, but like someone I heard that you have to drink IPAs like near like freezing temperatures
Yeah, that's
to
what I was telling you. It's like that.
right.
That's the
Yeah,
key
that's exactly.
to dry out the. That's where you get all like the fragrance and the flavor that they're intending you to have. Is you need to
Mm-hmm.
drink those as cold as possible, and that's why and those actually will get you pretty messed up quickly because if you're having to drink them when they're so super cold, you're almost like having to like really get them down
Mm-hmm.
because once they start to warm up, that's where the hoppiness comes out and it's
Ah,
not as flavorful and it's kind of like that's where it's like, oh, this is disgusting. It's like semi warm IPA
mm-hmm.
is terrible. It's awful.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Because I mean, I remember having it like cold, but still kind of being bitter. But like maybe just even though they were like sitting in like the refrigerator, but maybe they weren't just getting to that ideal temperature.
I think the ideal way to drink those is like out of a keg in a frosted glass, so it's at that peak cold temperature for and when you try it when you have it that way,
Mm-hmm.
boom, it's great.
Mm-hmm.